And we're just lucky to have Dave Putz on. Dave's been in the game, guys, for a long time. I think got in 2010, started getting into it heavily in 2011. He's done several transactions. He's played with all the biggest players in the game.
Woo-hoo, Dave.
Yeah.
Good to see you, Dave. Good to see you, man.
So yeah, Dave.
It was a pleasure.
Dave, you can just go ahead and introduce yourself to the crew.
Sure.
Tell them who Dave was, prior to 2010, and then give them a little bit of your background and story.
Sure. So I've been in this space since like 2010. I worked for a large fund at one point where I was doing due diligence on it and just trying to figure out what it was about. Helping a friend out turn into a much bigger game, right? They went from $100,000 to a couple billion in assets. I wish I had more equity in the company, but I didn't. And that's okay. So what I found out was that I didn't understand how to do due diligence, and I had to learn by doing. But what I did find out that I want to share with you guys is find out what you're good at and drive it home as much as you can, right? If you're not good at something, lean on someone who is and balance it out, right? I'm a spreadsheet person. I'm a visual screen person where the nitty gritty stuff on a paper is not something I look at. So it's the flip side is the calculator that Desi's talked about. Awesome stuff. I'm a spreadsheet person, so I actually created the exact same formulas and calculators you guys do in a spreadsheet so that I can punch in numbers from a tape and automatically figure out what I need to have. So I don't got to mess with these different keys. I know what a P and I is, and the calculator may not have that key. And I don't care if it does or doesn't, because I'm looking at a spreadsheet, right? So I literally, on a spreadsheet, I'm sure Des does the same thing, you can write an Excel formula that'll come out with the exact number you're looking for. My PV equation, same as a calculator, equates to what my PV on the calculator would be, but on a spreadsheet. And you can do an entire column straight down. So how did I get into this? I was a landlord for a while that really, really hated being a landlord. I struggled with it, but I was good with spreadsheets, good with numbers. Just tired of dealing with people in that kind of spell. Came across it through the flip side of it. And then in 2010, joined up with my buddy and started doing due diligence. Back then, we're buying at 35 cents on first. Seconds were between 5 and 8 cents. Ridiculously low. Awesome, right? Today, flip side, a little bit more expensive. However, what we learned over time, and this is huge, is the community of note investors leans on each other on a constant basis. We're all cooperation competitors, but at the end of the day, it's always helpful for everyone to kind of connect because of skill sets. So what we've done in the past is to connect people through our Facebook group, through webinars, but also going to conferences. I encourage you guys, if you haven't been to one, just go to one. It may be a little overwhelming. So in 2012, I went to my first conference and I knew nobody. And I saw this group of people who stood around and felt like I was an outsider. And all of a sudden, over time, I realized that I wasn't becoming an outsider. I actually came in the inside rather quickly. And just being honest in who you are. So I turned around in 2015, because in 2012, when I started buying notes, I bought on my personal name. Didn't know any better, just wanted to get in. I bought a few notes for under 10,000, which was great. Made some money. Listen, how can I do this even bigger? So we grew. By 2015, we're running webinars. We were into education. What I was doing was I was finding fields that I didn't understand and sharing with people, right? I didn't buy CFDs. Let me bring on people who buy contract for deeds. Let's share with everybody. So we started doing that. And then eventually moved on and on. We've now created automation tools because what we found was in 2015, 16, was a lot of people in our space were doing manual data points. And I'm sure you guys have been there before where you put a wrong data point in the spot, decimal point, or you forgot to add a decimal point. And all those kind of things can make huge mistakes, right? If you forget to change the interest rate on a loan, your PVs can be wrong. And all those little things that go on. So what we ended up doing is automating, where I can literally run a calculator. And what I do is I have a due diligence portal, which I plug in. I get all my data points from a property from different kind of sources. I plugged it into my calculator, and I can go through 50 to 100 assets in a matter of 15 minutes and get a bid number, all based on automation tools. And for me, that's valuable. Why? I'm not going to remember what the foreclosure costs are in Ohio off the top of my head. I'm not going to remember what this is. But I do remember the fact that if it's performing, my servicer fee is going to be different than if it's non-performing, right? So what it is a lookup table. And I started using the lookup table and using row numbers to change formulas and became better and better at spreadsheets. So if you're not familiar with spreadsheets, right, I would lean on someone who is, or reach out and find out automation spreadsheets that can be built for you, right? You can create a spreadsheet that runs the PV equation for a percentage, and all you do is change the percentage of the top row, and the entire column changes. And you'll be able to tell it immediately, which loan should I bid on? Which loan should I not bid on, right? And you can do a subtraction of the P&I for your servicing costs, be it $20, $30, whatever servicer you're with. So what we ended up doing is we built the portal, and then we provide services such as resources, right? Other investors in the space, servicers, what their fee schedule is, what states they're licensed in. So if you buy an asset, you know what servicers are open for that business in that state, attorneys, and we also went into REO agents. We have about 10,000 REO agents nationwide that I utilize other than BPOs. At the fund level, they're ranging between 35 and 38% accuracy on BPOs. And for me, that's devastating, because if I'm buying an asset outside my backyard, that's tough. If that value is way off because you lean on somebody, I was really fearing that. So what we want to do is find an REO agent versus a BPO and have a conversation. Or find an investor who's local to a property and have a conversation. If I reach out to you guys and there's a property 3 minutes from your house, and say, hey, can you just give me help here? I promise you'd probably say, hey, yeah, I'll be by it tomorrow. I'll take a couple pictures. I know the area. Utilizing the network of investors is key to understanding what values are, conditions of properties, and feeling comfortable versus a random BPO. So what do we do next? So we're going to be building out a bid calculator that kind of help people, but your bid calculator should be something you understand, right? I can give you a calculator, Des can give you a calculator, and you get lost. And I guarantee you, if you have to change something, you're going to go back to us and say, hey, what do I do here? And that's one of the keys of knowing that you should, if not anything else, understand how the calculator works. Now, we got into the space buying first. I bought non-performing, performing, and some seconds. I'm not a big CFD person, just my cup, what I'm looking for. If a value of assets over 50,000 in property value, we'll look at it. There's not many CFDs that are $60,000, $70,000 value, but that's okay. And I have reasons why I don't buy above 50, and that's okay for me too. Certain states I don't buy in, certain states I do. Right? There's certain states I'm sure Desi and I don't buy in because of things we've gone through. There's certain counties in Ohio, Cuyahoga County, I won't buy. It took me 6 months to get a deed recorded. Come on, right? And you get rubbed the wrong way where you lost a half a year. It's just ridiculous, right?
That one hit home hard, dude. We were just dealing with Cuyahoga County like in the last couple of weeks, man. Here we go with Cuyahoga again. Oh no.
Yeah. It's up there with Cook County, right? It's just, you start learning these things. And granted, I understand some people say, well, I don't know which states are bad. Ask. Hey, what do you, and I have no problem telling you what states I avoid. Why? Because it doesn't change anything for you. You don't know my numbers. You don't know my system. You're not going to get the same bidding I'm going to get. And I have better relationships with a lot of the sellers because I've been around for a while. They trust me, right? So for those who will be your new investors, the biggest thing is understanding this tape that comes out, right? Is these headers. What is the next payment due date? What's the last payment received mean? And understand these headers so you can plug them into the calculator. If you don't know what P&I is, because this is monthly payment, you can't put it in the calculator. So understand those headers. The next thing to understand is the system. And the fear of buying your first asset is overwhelming. Leaning on others, talking to people, and collaborating and saying, hey, Patrick, hey, Des, do you know this person? Is he legit? Yeah, right? Or I don't know who they are. Because a lot of time you get sucked into brokers. And that's the tough part, because we don't know if that joker broker is a joker broker or someone we just don't know.
But hey, Dave, what's a joker broker?
Yeah, good question. Joker broker is somebody says, I have assets for sale. Whose emails out there wants them? And you put on there, you'll probably see our Facebook thing going, are you a principal seller? What that means is that, are you the owner of the note? Because if I'm buying, say, from Patrick, and Patrick says, yeah, I got assets. And they go to Patrick and they make an offer. Patrick then goes, and if he doesn't own it, has to go to Desi and go, hey, I have an offer on your asset. I'm looking to make an offer on this thing. And what happens is Desi may not own it. Now it goes to April. Now it goes, and all of a sudden, the asset never was actually available, or it was ready, or it was available last year, and someone was trying to collect email addresses.
Yeah.
So that frustration comes back to it, right? It's just knowing who your seller is. So sometimes it's difficult to deal with brokers. Sometimes they're legit.
Yeah, you got to know who the legit ones are, and like you said, that's going to the conferences and showing up on the mastermind calls and the podcasts and everything else to figure out who are the real players in the game. And there are some good ones, right? There are some.
Absolutely. Right. So I think brokers are the big thing for new people, because they think you got exclusive tape that came on a Facebook, LinkedIn, email thing. And they say, oh, but you have to ask questions. So I'm going to give you 3 questions I ask my sellers, right? Are you principal seller? If they're principal seller, they know they're principal seller, right? I also ask them, who is the servicer for this loan? If you own the note, you'll know who's servicing the note, or you can look at your data and find out. The last thing is I ask, who's a collateral storage manager? Now, it sounds like a fancy word, but where's the collateral held? Oh, I don't know. You don't know, or you can find out from it, right? If they don't know this information, it's weird. And if they go to the seller and say, hey, who's servicing the note? It's a weird question to the seller to find this kind of questions out. So it's kind of things I look for to find out if the person's legit. The other way to find out is go to the county records and see the last assignment that's recorded. We were talking before about recordings. I can look and find out who's recorded last and go, hey, Des, is this your company? Yep, it's my company, right? No, it's not. It's different state. Well, then why is this assignment in a different name? So you can find out who owned the note without even getting into it. So our portal does one of those things where it can actually pull down the owner's name, email address. It also pulls down annual taxes. So we can use that data not only to run our calculator, because you need to know the annual tax amount for when you're buying a non-performer, because while you're foreclosing, you're going to have to pay taxes. Unfortunately, when you sell it, the taxes aren't free. The property taxes per se.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of stuff in spreadsheets because it's easier for me and I can quickly change numbers, right? If you can run things through a calculator, great. It's whatever works for you, right? And if you need help with spreadsheets, I've done some crazy stuff with spreadsheets that I shouldn't have done and probably took me 2 hours to figure out. And I'm like, great, it's done forever. But we automate all our processes through spreadsheets. One thing we've learned over the years too is when you're making offers to sellers, make sure you're making indicative offers on everything you could possibly think of. I'm going to give you one quick tip. Forced place insurance. We got in a bad spot. We actually bought a property. The forced place insurance was actually there, and the forced place insurance expired when the loan sold. Unfortunately, when the loan sold, the policy elapsed and we could not file a claim. We lost $30,000 on a deal. We bought it for 60. We're going to turn around. We actually had to sell for 30. We're going to make probably sell for about 110, 120. But the forced place insurance. So one of my key questions I ask, I have 13 of them, is what kind of forced place insurance, if any, is on this property? And I want to know. Another key one is property preservation photos, especially if it's in the Northeast, right? If that property is in the North and they winterized it, they have to have property photos. And that's a way to see inside the property without being inside the property, because you can't see inside the property, even with a BPO. But if the seller says, oh, no, I don't know what you're talking about, it's vacant and it's in Wisconsin, for 2 years and you haven't done a proper preservation photos? Has it been winterized? No go. I ain't touching that thing.
No, don't want it.
Either they're lying to you or the property's a mess. Right? That's some things I've learned by really hitting hard, right? So I have great connections and I hear from stories from everyone I'm connected with all the time. And crazy part is we don't hear all the good stuff. We have to hear the bad stuff, right? Let me tell you this, let me tell you that. But that makes me a better buyer, right? When we learned the fact that Ohio, the legal balance cannot be the attorney fees, because there's attorney fees and there's court fees, 2 different numbers. In Ohio, you cannot add the attorney fees onto your legal balance. Whoa, that changed my calculator because I was adding on those fees. But you learn this by doing things and running into counties that are bad. You know, it's crazy.
Ohio.
Yeah. So over the last 10 years, you learn little stuff, right? We just ran into a problem. The assignment and launch didn't match. I've never had a loan where the assignment and launch didn't match. And I said, this doesn't work. Talk to attorneys. It does. Didn't know that. I had no problem saying I don't know that because I never ran into it.
Yeah.
But sharing the information is key. So even if the situation you guys get into that you think we have all seen, post it on social media, spread it around, because some people have and some people haven't seen it. No matter how many deals they have.
What and that's one of the good things, Dave, that I know about you is that you are adamant that people who are playing the game well share with one another, and it's too open, and there's too many assets, there's too much opportunity to even consider being competitors, and there's too many people getting into this space. There's enough for everybody to eat, but it's like, why would I want to make the mistake that someone's already made 4 or 5 times prior and can just say, hey, dude, don't make this mistake. This is one thing you should keep an eye out for. And instead of losing money on a deal or having to learn the hard way, But on that note, Dave, if people just want to absorb information like people do, they're reading books, they're watching YouTube videos, they're joining coaching groups, they're showing up on mastermind. I know that you and Nathan, who we know well and we've done plenty of business with over the years, but you guys do sort of like a webinar. Is that every week, every other week,
every other Friday in our Facebook group? We actually run a webinar that just talks about different subjects. We have a YouTube channel that has all the webinars, but we talk about it. And one thing we're bringing up this week is one coincidence is with Joe Kennedy. We're talking about IRR, yield, and ROI. Right? I calculate things on IRR where some people calculate on yield. My plans are I'm not going to hold it to maturity, so I don't care what the yield is. I'm probably going to sell it in 2 to 3 years or 5 years. So I want to calculate my return during the time I hold it versus to maturity, right? Because yield calculates the maturity. But if I'm only holding it for 4 years and the maturity is 20 years down the line, my annual return is going to be different with a yield formula than it is if I'm going to sell it to you, Patrick, in 10 years, right? It's a different kind of mindset because you got to realize the fact that you're most likely, even if you buy an IRR or your IRA account, you're probably going to sell it before maturity happens or the borrowers that pay off. And most of the time that IRR's number is higher return than a yield number. Don't understand why. I don't understand the math. Hopefully Joe can explain to us next Friday, right, in our Facebook group. But it's weird how that different number is, even with a balloon, because I'm going to sell it to April, see here, at 10% yield in 4 years. I'm not selling for the balance alone. I'm going to sell it to her for 10. I'm going to buy it for 12 for that 4 years, 3 years, whatever I'm going to do it. And I bid it based on that return versus bidding on yield, right? And make sure your calculator can be changeable, right? I've changed my calculator 1,000 times as I change and update things, right? Statute of limitations comes into play. Oh, that changed. I got to make sure I adjust that. Your foreclosure fees change. Your timeline changes. All these things change, and you got to make sure you're on top of stuff. So ROI calculation is it's a simple phrase. It's your payment times 12 or how many months there are divided by purchase price. ROI is a very simple way to look at things, but it's not accurate. A lot of people do that, right? I don't bid on BPO. I don't bid based on UPB. I don't bid based on ROI because it really comes down to what goes in your pocket. Yield is in your pocket every year, right? I don't care if yield equates to a 20% of UPB or 90%, the return is. And what drives the yield is the coupon rate. If that's a 6% or 2% or 10%, your returns can be, your bid price will be different because the yield being low. A 2% coupon rate, and I have a spreadsheet shows this, is priced, if you bid an asset at 70% of UPB, two different ones, same numbers, and one's at 2%, one's at 8%, your bid price will dramatically change. Your yield will change because the interest rate's so low. To get a 2% up to a 10 returner, you have to bid that dramatically lower. I'm sure it confused a lot of people.
I was laughing so hard I was laughing in my head a little bit, Dave, when you said, well, like over the years, my calculator changes, right? And I was laughing in my head thinking, what do you mean your calculator is not buying at 30%, 30% of UPB anymore?
Yeah.
Right. Give me a break. Give me a break for 1 second. I'm just going to have Desi.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here. So, Dave, tell me, what is it that you have? You mentioned something about sounded like some sort of a program that we might be able to tap into.
Sure. So what we have is a due diligence portal that's going to get blown up over the years. We're hoping, right? One of the things we first did is, I'm sure you do the same thing, is I need data for properties, right? Annual tax amount. Has it been listed recently? What are the AVMs, meaning what's the value from Zillow or Trulia or this, and collaborating together? What is the tax assessment value? Is it been listed for foreclosure? Has it not? Right? And all the data can be pulled from all these different public and private websites. So our portal, one of the features is you put in a tape, it goes, grabs the information, and pulls it back. Right?
What if it's not a tape, Dave? What if it's not a tape? What if I just want to put in one asset?
You can put one address in here or a bulk, either way. Right?
Okay.
You can also go get agents. You can put in 4 or 5 addresses or a single, and in return, Oreo agents local to that property address. You'll get their email address, phone number, and all that good stuff. It also has resources. I have the next note conferences coming up. You'll see a date and time kind of thing, and a way to register. Mm-hmm. And it's a way to kind of get the information. And then you could take the due diligence portal and then download it to another spreadsheet and plug into a calculator, however you want to do it. Right? Because we have the beginner series, just like you guys do. And we have a mastermind weekly group that works on building bid calculators. Because the bid calculator is your bread and butter to your business, if that makes sense, right? If you don't have a bid calculator, start with what Desi's saying, is the yield formula, right? That's great for performing loans. Great. That's what you want to use, right? I use it in a spreadsheet, Des uses it on a calculator. Different situation, same results. Right. So the portal will eventually help you guys be able to process data and bring it down to a spot where you can analyze it, because you can't analyze a non-performing note without knowing what the annual tax amount is.
So how do we find your portal?
Sure. You can go to our website, jkpholdings.com/JKP portal -portal. I'm sorry, make sure I have that right. So I'll put it in the comments for you guys too.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was going to ask you. I was just going to type it into the comments, but
yeah, that's a little diagram. We're actually going to be going live hopefully next week. We're just working on a few more bugs. It works pretty much everything. It just little things here and there which are funky that I'm just trying to clean up. I'm trying to be really precise on when I launch it. But you guys can definitely tune in, check it out. The resource list is awesome there. Some of them are free, like your servicer comparison chart is free. Go in there and go, hey, I got a property in Tennessee. Who's licensed there? And you can look down, you see their fee schedule, the whole works, right? Beautiful. But that's all free. Now, if you want to do that, it would be a charge to do these property lookups and whatnot. And we'll work with Desi and see if we can give you guys discounts, but you get like first 45 credits free just to play with it and get used to it. Because with any system, it's always a change.
Yeah.
But
yeah, so that's it there at jkpholdings.com/JKP-portal.
Yep, that's the website kind of advertising it, and it'll bring you to the portal.jkp Holdings. I'm not good at marketing. Hopefully I get better at it, but I think that's one of my weaknesses, but I lean on people who are better.
That's what I was going to say. You got to lean on somebody who's good at it. That's it. That is the name of the game out here, by the way.
Yeah.
Making alliances with people even within our own community, I encourage our guys, make alliances with people that you meet just here on Saturdays.
Yes.
We have our own private group as well. We have a Facebook group, but we have a private group as well. So I ask people to plug into that. Well, Dave, you have shared a ton of information. Let's see if we have anybody with any questions.
Yeah, please do.
Ask, okay.
I have one, and it kind of goes. Hi, Dave. How you doing?
Hi,
It
Sal.
kind
How
of
you
goes with what Desi showed a little bit earlier about how to sell a note. Kind of like, if somebody's in a position where they don't actually have the money. But here's the question. Makes sense numbers wise, the numbers that we did, whatever the spread is, right? But here's the thing. I run into somebody like David, and he starts asking me 1,000 questions. I don't have a clue. All I did is I parked my interest with Desi's note, and I got a bunch, I'm hoping that I'm going to get somebody else is going to pay me the difference. But I run into somebody like Dave, and all of a sudden he thinks that I'm a joker broker, and pretty much I'm going to be. So how do we what's the deal there?
Well, hey, Dave, can I take that?
Yeah,
Go for it.
Okay, that's more of a question that you want to talk to me about, Sal.
Okay.
Than Dave. So, and I know that you and I think we have something scheduled for next week. If you didn't already,
I think so.
Yeah. And so maybe you want to bring that up, and I can talk to you about how to address how to position yourself.
Okay.
That's what you're asking. Like, how do I position myself so that I don't look like a joker broker?
Exactly.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be that.
Perfect.
Hey, Sal, that's that whole, are you direct to the seller whole argument and question we ask people? Because if you're direct to the seller, if you are brokering a note that Desi and I are selling, and you know us very well, if your potential buyer says, hey, I need to see this, or who's servicing it? Where's the collateral file held? Where's this? And he starts asking these hard questions, Sal, Desi and I would have positioned you as our broker to know how to answer those questions. And if not, be willing to set up a 3-way phone call between the buyer and your seller, because you are direct to that seller and you can put a quick phone call together because you know them, and it all works out that way. It's the joker broker thing, whereas people are claiming things that they aren't really true to. They don't really know the seller. They're 2-3 brokers down the line in a daisy chain. They can't provide you the information. And Dave's just saying seasoned folks will ask some more serious questions like that to a new broker to find out real quickly within 3 minutes on the phone, is this guy a joker or not? That's
perfect. Thank you. That makes great. Thanks.
Dave, I got a question. This is Chris.
Go ahead, Chris.
So if you're taking down a performing note, let's say your exit strategy is some date in the future, how do you calculate the depreciation value on the note at that date in the future?
So what we do with our calculations is to figure out a yield formula, right? At that point in time, if I'm going to sell you, Chris, at a 10 yield in 3 years, I can quickly figure out what it is using even the calculator Des showed, right? In 3 years, 36 months, what will be, using the formula, the PV at that time. I'm going to know how many payments are left, right? Based on the formula, based on the maturity date. I'm going to know the number of periods. I'm going to know what the interest rate I'm going to sell it at, right? I need to know the PV. So we could plug everything in and solve the PV at that date. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So if you figure it all out, PV is a simple formula, right? All PV does is it provides you with the present value of the loan based on the rate, which we know, number of payments left, the payment amount, and if there's a balloon, right? But if we have all those three, we can solve for the fourth one, which is PV. So I'm going to sell it to you in 3 years. I can figure it out and say, okay, while I'm holding it for 3 years, what's my return every single year for those 3 years? It's a new strategy a lot of people actually learning recently. And we talked to some seasoned people who are like, oh, I never thought about that. So I don't use yield as much unless it's a situation that I'm literally going to hold on it and it's a 15% returner. Then I hold the damn thing on it. 20 years. We have a couple like 25% returners. And guess what? I ain't selling the thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to hold on to it. It's an IRA. Goodbye. You don't know anything about it, right? It's fine. But some of these loans where I'm getting 10, 12, 14, 15%, I'm willing to sell to you for 10, 11. And that's the key, right? I can sell to you in 6 months if I buy it and sell it. And it works that way too. Good question, Chris. I appreciate that.
Good day.
Hey, Smitty, what's up, bud? Smitty was on our last week's. Yes, for those who were on the webinar last week, I run ongoing bet with a buddy of mine that the Niners make it farther in the playoffs than the Giants. I got to keep my beard, and the Niners lost last week. Smitty was on our webinar last week to talk about things, and I was able to shave. Thank you. What's happening, Smitty?
Question, two-part question. Have you purchased lease options? And if you have, what do you think about them? Or if you haven't purchased them, what do you think about lease options on tape?
Sure. I have no problem with lease options, right? To me, it's similar to a contract for deed, right? My problem is that most lease option assets are not high value assets. We're not talking about $100,000, $200,000 asset. So my problem is if it gets below a $50,000 property value, I'm passing on it for that reason.
Right.
And the reason I pass on it is because if I buy a property worth 40 and I buy it for X dollars and I have repairs to it, and the kitchen's never cost you $200. They're gonna cost you a few grand, and $5,000 on a $50,000 property value versus $6,000 on a $100,000 property value, right? A kitchen that I'm rehabbing is never gonna cost 40 grand, right? Unless it's a multi-million-dollar property. But a $50,000 property gets eaten a lot by rehabs and costs. If foreclosure cost in any state is going to be X dollar, well, I'd rather buy a higher value property where if it's a $30,000 property value and the foreclosure fee is $3,000, I'm losing 10% right off the top. Now, if that thing's worth 60, I'm losing only 5%. So that's the only reason. We've bought maybe 2 or 3 of them. Again, unless it gets above 50, I don't really often look at them at all.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Good question. Good question.
And I like that. I like that they were showing new folks and people who are getting into notes for, buying their first couple and things, that setting a personal investment criteria for your own personal reasons that you stick to is like being a professional gambler that gambles at a casino for a living. They don't go in there and make stupid choices and veer from their system. You have a system. It's Dave's investment criteria for whatever reasons they are. And one of them is, I don't care what the deal looks like, how good the numbers sound or anything else. If the property value is less than $50,000, it's off of my radar immediately. And I like that because that goes along with what we've been teaching these guys, is that build your investment criteria and also don't waver from it. There was a reason why. No emotions, right? I don't care how great it looks, how cute she is, how good looking he is. If it doesn't fit what you're looking for, and a lot of people, Patrick, great question, right? Because I'm sure a lot of people ask you guys the same question. Well, I don't know what I want. Well, I can't help you if you don't know the return you're looking for. I can't help you, right? Now, states I can help you with. Return, listen, I can beat your 1% saving account. Is that good? I'll give you 2%. I'll make you double your money.
Yeah, right? But if you don't know your return, that's something you have to look at internally, because then I can't help you. And we've had people go, well, I want a 50% return. Well, then you know what? You let me know when you're getting 50 and I'll give you some money. Yes. If you're buying bulk, right? I can get a 200% return on asset here or there. But if you're buying bulk, you're not getting that solid numbers. And that's okay, right? You could target 50, but you're not going to get it unless your numbers are wacky, right? Unless you're building an ROI calculator. Good question. So being in this space for long enough, I learned to ask questions to people, right? Asking people, even if they're the same level or below me, I have no problem asking questions. So feel free to be open. We run the Facebook group, the Friday meetings. I do a beginner series. I also have a mastermind group, real small one, right? That we just gear up on building these things. But no matter what, as Desi and Patrick said, is listening to other people in the space is key, right? Des will agree to it. You can't only look at Des because Des hasn't had all the experience in the world, and he may not run into a situation where he may look at an angle that I don't look at, or I may look at an angle he doesn't look at. Yep. And just learning from everyone is really, really key. but you need to have someone to look up to ask the normal questions too as well.
Well, that's why we have you here, Dave. And, you know, we do teach our people that don't look to us to teach you everything.
Yeah.
Look to us to help you make some decisions when you get in a tough spot. We have had a lot of experience. We can point you in the right direction.
Sure.
Learn from us,
Yes.
but learn from Dave. Learn from Dave,
Yeah.
right? Learn from
Yeah.
all these guys. Read these books. Attend these events.
Yeah.
Because that's how you become well-rounded, and that's how you're going to meet the right people so that you can do some alliances. This is a business of who you know far more than what you know. It really is a business of who you know.
One of the really cool things is people ask me, I can't find assets. Well, first off, there's a ton of assets out there. Second, I'll give you a nice little trick. You have 51 people on this call. I guarantee you there's somebody on this call that has an asset that are willing to sell. Why is nobody asking other investors, hey, you have an asset that you're looking to sell? I'm looking to buy a partial, buy whatever. People don't ask others. They look for these big hedge funds like us to come in and give you assets. Well, I'm going to tell you that I may have built buy a property from Smitty better than I could buy from Desi because Smitty needs to get rid of it because he's trying to buy a better asset. So asking each other, hey, do you have assets? Do you have anything you're looking for? Do you know anyone? Is key.
Yeah, we keep telling Dave, you got to put yourself out there. Success doesn't come hunt you down, right?
Yeah.
And good deals and good purchases aren't going to come hunt you down. You gotta hunt them down. But speaking of hunting down, if you want to hunt down Dave and his group, remember, guys, his Facebook group is East Coast Distressed Note Investing. You can go to the East Coast Distressed Note Investing, join his Facebook group, and then sign up to get maybe alerts, right? When you're going to go live on those webinars with Nate. And then JKPHoldings.com, his website. He has tons of resources. Some are free, some are paid. He can help you. And I'm sure Dave is such a giver in the industry that he'd probably even accept a quick phone call from you or an email or respond or whatever it may be, guys.
Absolutely, guys. Well, my email's in the chat. If anyone needs it, let me know. Des, Patrick, always a pleasure. I'm sure I'll see you guys soon.
Give us one more second because we have sort of a tradition because we really appreciate you, Dave, spending the time. And I know you actually rearranged because I messed up and didn't rearranged, but everybody usually is really grateful for the value that our guests offer. I know that they're grateful for you being on here today. So we always want to just unmute everybody and give Dave a big old thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Awesome. That was amazing. That's awesome.
All right, guys. Hey, God bless everyone. Desi, thanks. Dave, thanks. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And we'll sign off and see y'all next Saturday.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Desi.
Thanks.
Have
a nice weekend.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.